Hello, everybody. Aiden here, and welcome back to another video here on the Around the Slice YouTube channel. So, this past cycle in the NFL, there were 10 head coach openings, and at this point in time, all 10 have been filled. So, I wanted to jump on here today and present you all with my rankings, ranking all 10 hires from 10 to 1, 10 being my least favorite, 1 being my favorite. And as a bonus, I'm going to give you all a concrete letter grade for all 10 as well as we work our way up the ladder, if you will. And then at the end of this video, as a fun bonus exercise, I want to go over some potential head coach openings in spots that we could see available next year in 2027. So let's just jump right into it. At number 10, with a grade of a C, with a grade of a C minus even, I have the Arizona Cardinals hiring Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur to be their next head coach. So right off the jump, right off the bat, this guy's background. He's a Sean McVay disciple through and through. He's been with Sean McVay's OC in LA with the Rams for the last few years. Sean McVay tree, they're littered across the league with him and Shanahan disciples. That's the biggest positive you can have. On the negative side, I'm very skeptical of this because he seems more of like a quiet, reserved kind of guy. I thought Arizona needed stability and experienced head coach who's done it before, like maybe like a Vance Joseph type or Ajero Avero, type, somebody like that, not this new hotshot offensive coordinator. And speaking of that, I'm always going to be skeptical of non-play calling offensive coordinators, guys. Sean McVay called the plays over there, so it's great that he's been around Sean McVay. But if we're looking up 2-3 years from now, unfortunately, I could definitely see the Cardinals being a head coach search, even a minimum of 2 years, max of 3 years, just because I'm not really a fan of this hire. And then at number 9, I have the Buffalo Bills hiring Joe Brady. I know this is my own team. This is how you know I'm not being biased whatsoever in these league-wide videos on the channel. I'm going to give the Bills hiring Joe Brady a C at number 9. Letter grade of a C. I talked about this in the pod last week. But you fired a 9-year, generally very successful head coach after 9 years in Sean McDermott to promote from within. That didn't make much sense to me. I said in the pod, go back and listen to my last couple episodes. But long story short, you needed change. If you were going to make a drastic move like that, change had to be about. Change had to be incoming. And I'm just disappointed that they promoted from within. And I feel like Joe Brady is an OC. I was moderately a fan of him as an OC, but this year he got too cute at multiple points. So, let alone head coach. At number 8, I have, the more and more I think about this, the more and more this one's just really weird. At number 8, I have the Cleveland Browns hiring Todd Monken with a letter grade officially of a C+. On the positive, I have been waiting for Todd Monken to get a head coach gig for the last few years. I'm glad he finally got one after he's worked with Lamar for the last few years. He was highly touted as the Georgia wide receivers coach / offensive coordinator when he's there. Highly touted as the Ravens OC, developing Lamar or continuing to develop Lamar at that point, his veteran presence when he was there. But I feel like on the downside, if Monken was going to get a head coach opportunity, wouldn't it have happened before this year? He's gotten interviews, but it was strange that he never actually got hired. And then everyone was pulling out. Mike McDaniel pulled out of this job. Grant Udinski pulled out of his job. They interviewed Nate Scheelhaus. They interviewed Jim Schwartz. And for what it's worth, I thought they absolutely should have gone with Jim Schwartz because now you're going to lose Jim Schwartz. You pissed him off because he was passed over for Todd Monken. And I understand his frustration. They had all these candidates pull out. They had a very condensed list because they were very high in Jim Schwartz. And now they're going to lose that great elite defensive coordinator, and their defense will probably take a step back. So Todd Monken's on the older side. He's 65 years old. I don't know. This just feels like a last resort hire to me. And if there was one guy that could go one and done, similar to Pete Carroll this past year, I think unfortunately it'll be Todd Monken with the Browns. They interviewed all these people. They condensed the list down. They're very high on Jim Schwartz, just a pivot at the last second, it felt like, and go with Todd Monken. If you're going to go with a more veteran, older guy over some hotshot coordinator like Udinski, McDaniel pulled out, but Udinski or Scheelhaus, it should have been Jim Schwartz. That's my main concern. And again, if he would have gotten a job, it would have happened by now, right? That's my thinking. line there. At number 7, I have with a grade of a B minus. I seem to be way lower than most people on this, if not a majority of people on this. B minus, the Tennessee Titans at number 7, hiring Robert Saleh. Everyone says, oh, he's done it before. Oh, it's a miracle that he even led the Jets to 7 wins with Zach Wilson, and he never had a QB in Zach Wilson. He's a great leader. I'm fine with retreads, but not this sort of retread. Robert Saleh, great elite defensive coordinator. What he was able to do coaching way above his weight class, if you will, way above his personnel in San Francisco this past year under Kyle Shanahan as the DC defensive coordinator specifically and mainly. Elite type stuff. He had no personnel left. Dre Greenlaw left in free agency. Talanoa Hufanga left in free agency. Nick Bosa torn ACL early in the season. The first round pick, Micah Williams, torn ACL early in the season. They had no defensive tackle, starters or depth whatsoever. And Fred Warner, broken ankle very early in the season as well. And then 3 or 4 more linebackers like Tatum Bethune, guys like that. They had to have Eric Hendricks and Luke Gifford out there late in the year. He coached way above his weight class, way above his personnel, if you will. This is just a retread that I don't like. I do like a stabling presence that have been there and done it before for Cam Ward, but this roster is severely lacking. They need wide receivers. If they're going to cut Tony Pollard, they need a bell cow running back upgrade from Tyjae Spears. They need an offensive line piece or two. Their D-line or their edge group is laughably barren. They're probably going to cut L'Jarius Sneed at corner. They need to get younger at safety. They need to phase out some of their older guys like Amani Hooker and that. So, 1 second. So, anyway, guys, long story short, that Titans roster needs a hell of a lot of help, but this is one retread I'm really not a fan of. So. At number 6, Steelers. So, whereas a lot of people love the Saleh hire for the Titans and hate the McCarthy hire for the Steelers, I'm the complete opposite, funny and ironically enough. I really kind of don't like the Robert Saleh hire for the Titans, and I really like the Mike McCarthy hire for the Steelers. So I'm putting it at number 7 with the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy with a concrete letter grade of a B+. The more and more I think about this, the more and more I like it. This is his 3rd stop, but he's been at the mountaintop before. He's won a Super Bowl before. A lot of people don't like this because they thought after Mike Tomlin departed that a lot of Steelers fans and NFL fans in general thought that Steelers would need a hot shot offensive coordinator come in, turn the tide around, if you will, in the playoffs and get over the hump of the wild card round and so forth and going forward. But I like how they're going from legacy coach to legacy coach. Mike Tomlin, been there before, done it. Mike McCarthy, been there before, done it. Sure, you might look at Mike McCarthy's postseason success, and I've had criticisms, many in the past, when he was with Dallas. Wildcard round exits a few years in a row. Divisional round exits a few years in a row here and there. But he went 12-5 for like 3 or 4 years straight with that team. Sure, it became stagnant in the end because his contract expired and his relationship with Jerry Jones was kind of fractured. But I don't think Pittsburgh needs a hotshot offensive coordinator to be their head coach. So I really like the Mike McCarthy hire. Is it kind of uninspiring for Steelers fans? Is it a lack of change going from one person who has struggled in the playoffs and Mike Tomlin to another person who struggled in the playoffs to Mike McCarthy? Sure, but I think you need stabilization for a legacy team and franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So these top 5 are all elite hires to me. At number 5, we have Miami Dolphins hiring Jeff Hafley. I gave this an A. Is Jeff Hafley some young, hot shot offensive mind? No, not even close. But he is going to come in, and is he going to come to Miami, which was treated like a country club under Mike McDaniel, for all intents and purposes, when you look at it and hear about it, and stabilize things? Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't always need a hotshot offensive coordinator. In Miami's case, they just need stabilization. They just need a tone setter. They just need someone that will come in and change the culture for the good, change the culture for the better. I think Jeff Hafley is an elite defensive coordinator. Once he gets those guys in there, maybe he gets some transplants from Green Bay on defense. Maybe he gets a Kingsley Enagbare, who's a free agent, a Quay Walker, who's a free agent. he's really good at developing safeties like Xavier McKinney, like Evan Williams when he was drafted, like Javon Bullard when he was drafted. Really, you see where I'm going here. Really elite defensive coordinator. Some people are going to look at his record at Boston College when he was head coach and say, "Wow, he sucked there." It's Boston College. What have you seen them play college football at any point in time ever? Dumpster fire. Never have any offense, never have any defense, never have anything, period. I love this. It pains me to say as a diehard Bills fan, it's a Bills podcast, Bills pod, but I think Jeff Hafley comes in and sets the tone. You don't need some stupid hotshot offense coordinator. Some teams do. The Dolphins did not. They tried that with Mike McDaniel, and it was a literal free-for-all country club. So, yeah. Number 4, Falcons. This one's really growing on me. Kevin Stefanski, For the circumstances in Cleveland, I know the whole Deshaun Watson thing, I know the whole Andrew Berry and GM thing didn't set up for some success at all. But I think it was time for Cleveland to reset. I think it was time for Cleveland to move on. So Kevin Stefanski probably isn't a coach that should ever be fired, but in those circumstances, in Cleveland hitting the reset button, if you will, I think it was fine that they let him go. It seems more and more likely now that Kirk Cousins will be the starter next year because they were awesome together. Stefanski as Cousins' offensive coordinator for those handful of years back in Minnesota for the 2 or 3 years they were together. And that's not the worst thing in the world, right? They have experience together. That's a veteran leader. I think your leadership core now of Matt Ryan as president of football operations, Ian Cunningham as GM, Kirk Cousins is projected starting QB. I don't think they trade or release him for what it's worth. And Kevin Stefanski is head coach. That's really, really awesome. Now, do I fire Raheem Morris and not going with a defensive-minded head coach? Do I worry about that young defensive talent not repeating in year 2? Like guys like Jalen Walker, James Pierce off the edge, Xavier Watts in the secondary. AJ Terrell's a veteran, but AJ Terrell at corner. Of course, but I think those guys are young enough year 2, 3, and going forward and beyond where they can develop even if Kevin Stefanski is not a defensive-minded head coach. They kept Jeff Ulbrich. So the contingency plan is kept there. I really love this hire. So, moving on. At number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens hiring Jesse Minter. I'm also going to give this an A. I think even though he is technically a young, hotshot, defensive-minded coach, I think he sets the tone. There were reports that towards the end, there was a lot of friction this past year in the 2025 NFL season between Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. And for all intents and purposes, the relationship was kind of fractured towards the end. So everyone said, specifically Ravens fans, they need to bring someone in that will jive with Lamar, that can be in the same wavelength as Lamar. My thing is, Lamar's a veteran at this point. He's going into year 9 in the league. Same draft class as Josh Allen, Sam Darnold. He's going to year 9 in the league. Whatever shortcomings Lamar Jackson may or may not have is on Lamar at this point. Their defense was by far the biggest issue last year. So bringing in Jesse Minter makes perfect success. I think he coached way above his talent level with the personnel he was given to work with in Los Angeles, LA with the Chargers last year. So I really love his schemes. So I think he's a mix between a young, hotshot, defensive-minded head coach and a culture and tone setter. Yeah, everything's on Lamar now. The defense side of the ball needed a lot of work. Their personnel's not bad at all. For whatever reason, John Harbaugh's scheme kind of got stale. They have good personnel. Like, you look across the board, they need some edge rushers or two, but at linebacker, they have Roquan Smith still. At corner, they have Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins looks so good. At safety, they have Kyle Hamilton. We'll see if they re-sign Alohi Gilman. They have Malachi Stark, so maybe not, but I love that. At number 2, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. This isn't official yet. Day after the Super Bowl, it'll be officially announced. The Las Vegas Raiders hiring current Seahawks OC Clint Kubiak. Straight up, guys, I'm giving this an A+. A defensive-minded head coach never made sense for the Raiders specifically, just because they don't have personnel on that side of the ball to justify it. Like, that needs a lot of work. So it's not a concern, but I am looking to see what Kubiak does with that defense. But offense, they definitely got pieces for Kubiak to work with. They're going to take Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall. They have Ashton Gianti in the backfield. They have Brock Bowers at tight end. They have Michael Mayer at tight end. You know that Clint Kubiak loves 12 personnel, loves to run different personnel sets, two tight end sets specifically. This past year, whether it was AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo, or when Arroyo was hurt, AJ Barner and Eric Saubert, I should say. So that's good. And bonus, Rashid Shaheed will definitely be a transplant and follow him wherever he goes. He was with him in New Orleans, with him in Seattle with the Seahawks. Now he's going to be with him in Las Vegas with the Raiders. Defense needs a lot of help. But this was my dream hire for the Bills. Obviously, before they got Joe Brady's kind of hire, I gave it a C. If you recall earlier in this video, as we were talking about that. But I'm going to give the Raiders hiring Clint Kubiak an A+. So, yeah. And they needed, after last year's debacle with Pete Carroll, was like 75 years old, they needed a young hotshot like this to usher in the new era of talent they have in the offensive side of the ball. And at number one, this is far and away the number one with an A+, the New York Giants hiring John Harbaugh. If the Giants went with some hotshot offensive coordinator again, that would be so freaking stupid. They needed a CEO type. They need someone who's been there before. John Harbaugh's won the Super Bowl before. It was 2012, many, many years ago, but still, or somewhere around there. Don't ask me. But yeah, they need a CEO type. They need a stabling presence. They need a tone setter and culture setter. Because they have personnel, they have decent pieces, but how many times do they have to go through these young hotshot offensive coordinators and it doesn't work out? They needed a coach that was going to be there for many years to come. They needed a CEO stabilizing presence. They went through Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, Brian Daboll. Besides the 1 year of Brian Daboll in his first year winning Coach of the Year, that all went horribly. They all were miserable failures, specifically Pat Shurmur and Joe Judge. Brian Daboll's okay, I guess. But yeah, anyways, those are my head coach rankings, 10-1, along with letter grades. Finishing off with John Harbaugh, the New York Giants hiring John Harbaugh at number one with a stamp of approval, A+. Next, potential openings in 2027. So first, I could absolutely see the New York Jets firing Aaron Glenn halfway into the season next year. I understand that the quarterback, the Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields flip-flop every week was a disaster. I understand that Woody Johnson meddles too much. He's a very difficult and obscure owner to work with. But the more and more I feel like Aaron Glenn, I feel like he's a fake tough guy. He's weak. Like everyone said, he's so tough with his defense in Detroit. But you watch his games and he's weak-minded. He's punting when he shouldn't be. He never goes for it when he should be. He draws off to the media all the time. I just don't like his personality. So, and it's the Jets. They're always a clown show. Zach Taylor. I thought he should have been fired 2 years ago at the end of the 2024 season, let alone this year at the end of the 2025 season. But Mike Brown is a cheap-ass owner, and he's not going to pay a guy his final year of his contract to not coach for them. So his contract will expire, and I'm sure they'll move on unless they go to the AFC Championship or Super Bowl or something. And then I just had to mention this earlier. We always see a one-and-done guy with these cycles. Last year it was Pete Carroll with an older, experienced coach. Now it's Todd Monken with the Cleveland Browns. If Shore Sanders doesn't impress, if the Browns really run a reset again, they want to clean house and start anew, fire GM Andrew Berry to have continuity, fire Todd Monken, one and done. I could definitely see that. We just see one and dones every year. Andy Reid of the Chiefs. This will not be a parting of ways. This will not be a firing by any means. I know it's hard to walk away from Patrick Mahomes. It sounds like Travis Kelce. I don't agree with it, but it sounds like he's leaning towards coming back. But he has to retire at the end of the 2026 season. So if he retires, if some of their older guys, well, he's really the only old guy they have. And if they can't make the playoffs again and Patrick Mahomes doesn't rehab like it's wanted, like they hope, then I can see Andy Reid walking away, retiring at the end of the 26th season. That could be available. Next, Eagles with Nick Sirianni. They're going to trade A.J. Brown, so that friction will be gone. But if you lose it in the wild card round again, I could see Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman with their roster building and the urgency as a win-now team year in and year out, win every single year. I could see them moving on from Nick Sirianni. Dan Quinn of the Commanders, if Jaden Daniels continues to get injured and if that defense continues to not have the right personnel to succeed and the scheme is weird again and lackluster to say the least, and that's Dan Quinn's specialty, if you will, I could see Dan Quinn being out. I don't think I would agree with it, but I could see it realistically. And then Todd Bowles of the Buccaneers. He was really pissed at the end of this year, swearing to media, and he's usually very quiet and reserved. I felt like personally, as did many others, including myself, that he should have been fired at the end of this year. But hey, that's what do I know? That's just my opinion. I'm just talking on a video here. I think the most tantalizing job would be the Chiefs, but that's contingent on Andy Reid retiring. I think it would be the Philadelphia Eagles because you have the win now mindset every single year. You have the elite GM in Howie Roseman. You have the elite owner who stays out of the way in Jeffrey Lurie. I think the Eagles would be so tantalizing. And the Chiefs, obviously, if Andy Reid retires, but yeah. Anyways, little jam-packed video today. We ranked from 10 to 1 the new hires, and then as a bonus exercise, I give you guys potential 10. Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 8 potential openings that I could see for next year, including a one-and-done candidate, unfortunately, in Todd Monken. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below. What's your favorite hire from this past cycle? What's your least favorite hire from this past cycle? Do you agree with me that Todd Monken could be, unfortunately, one and done, as we see one every year? We just saw it with Pete Carroll and the Raiders. Let me know all that down in the comments below. You can follow me on Twitter /X at AYunit13. We are going to be kicking off and starting our free agency content on the channel next week. I'm so fired up about that. Additional previews, potential price tags, potential contracts, and most importantly, potential landing spots for guys specifically. It's going to be a ton of fun, so make sure you like and are subscribed for that. Along the way, it's going to be a blast. Please share and let me back up. Please share this video and channel with anyone and everyone you know. It would help me out so much more than you ever know. Thank you for the support as always. I will see you in the next one. Have a great end to your week. Goodbye.